So here we are. This is two-step equations. The most important thing that you really need to know is that the opposite of a positive number is a negative number, okay? And the opposite of a negative number is a positive number. You also need to know your inverse operations, which in this case is just a fancy way of saying, sorry, I wrote that wrong. It's a fancier way of saying what's the inverse of or opposite of multiplication? Division. And vice versa. What's the opposite of division? It's multiplication. What's the opposite of adding? It's subtracting. And the opposite of subtracting is adding. Okay, so let's start off with the first one. So for these type of equations or questions, the only thing you're really trying to solve for is like, what is this variable c? Like, what does it represent? So when I read this, what this is saying is that 9 is being multiplied by some number plus 1 is going to give me 10. Okay, so you really want to just figure out what the c variable is. And again, any number next to a variable is being multiplied. So when I look at this question first, I want to get everything away from this 9c. The opposite of adding 1 is going to be subtracting 1. So I'm going to subtract 1 to both sides. 1 minus 1 gives me 0, so it cancels out. I'm left with 9c is equal to 9. And again, any number next to a variable is being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is going to be to divide by 9 to both sides. 9 divided by 9 cancels out and just gives me 1. Leaves me with the variable c is equal to 1. So why this cancels out is because 9 divided by 9 is just 1. There's an invisible 1 right here. You don't have to always put it there. You won't always see it there, but when you see a variable by itself, there's a little 1 in front of it. Okay? Let's do number 2. Okay? I have 6y minus 5 equals 7. Okay? So again, I want to get this by itself, but in order to do that, I need to add the 5 to both sides, where I get 6y is equal to 12. I need to isolate, get rid of everything next to that y. So remember, this is being multiplied, so I'm going to divide because that's the inverse, and I get y is equal to 2. And if you're like, hey, not sure if that's true, but let's check it. There's one way to check it. You can always check your work. Okay, so we just said that for every time we see c, it's going to be 1. So we started with the equation, and I'm just going back to the original problem where we started with. Okay, number 1. So every time I see a c, I'm going to plug in a 1. So I have 9. Remember, this means you're multiplying. When you have a number and a variable next to each other, you're multiplying. So 9 times 1 plus 1 is 10. We're going to see, is it 10 when I figure all this out? Or when I simplify? Well, 9 times 1 is 9 plus 1 equals 10. 9 plus 1 is 10 equals 10. So therefore it works. You can always check your answers. So let's try this one. 6y minus 5 equals 7. Let's check to see if this works. So we found y to give us 2. And again, you don't have to always check, but if you have time and you're like, I want to get 100%, then just check your answer. So every y that I see, I'm plugging in 2. So I have 6 times 2 minus 5 equals 7. Orders of operation tells me to multiply first, which is 12 minus 5 equals 7. And in fact, this is true, so therefore it works. I should also mention you should know your orders of operation. So GEMDAS is really important that you know. You're probably familiar with PEMDAS, but it's actually referred to GEMDAS because GEMDAS is grouping. So parentheses is necessary as well, but so is brackets. So that's why it's GEMDAS. So you have to always do that first. Then your exponents, then multiplication, then division, then addition, and then subtraction. Okay, so make sure that is something you do know in going into these kind of equations. Okay, let's try number 3. Here we have 8 equals 3a minus 4. So what this is saying is that I have 3 times some number minus 4 is going to give me 8. Okay, so I want to get everything away from this term. Why specifically? Because it has this variable. Okay, then get rid of that number in front of that variable. The opposite of minus 4 is going to add 4. Okay, I'm adding 4 to both sides. I get 8 plus 4 is 12. I'm left with 3a on the right-hand side. 3a is telling me that 3 times some number is going to give me 12. So the opposite of multiplying is going to be divide by 3 to both sides, where 12 divided by 3 is 4 is equal to A. And again, you could check it to see if it is correct. Here's number 4. M divided by 5 plus 9 equals 11. So again, it has that term, it's a term with the variable. So hold off on that for a second. The opposite of adding 9 is to subtract 9 to both sides. I get M divided by 5 equals 2. Now, all this is saying is that I have some number divided by 5 is going to give me 2. The opposite of dividing 5 is going to be multiply 5. So if I multiply 5 to both sides, this cancels out, okay? The reason why it cancels out is because, let me just show you like scratch work on the side. Why does this cancel out? Okay, and you'll see it over time and it will make sense. But this 5 is the same as writing 5 divided by 1, because 5 divided by 1 is 5, okay? Where if I cross cancel, there we go. They cross cancel, so I'm just left with M on that side, okay? So I'm left with M is equal to 10. There is my answer, okay? Over time, you will just be able to see that it cancels out. But the reasoning is because it's 5 divided by 1 is the same thing as writing 5. Still cancels out, and there's a 1 here that does essentially cancel out. But then I'm left with this variable M. Okay, number 5. I have 13 plus 7x equals 27. So again, I want to think of this as its own term. I want to get everything away from it, so I'm going to subtract 13 to both sides. When I do, I get 7x is equal to 14. So 7 times some number is going to give me 14. Well, the inverse of multiplication is going to be to divide by 7 to both sides. Divide by 7 to both sides. I get x is equal to 2. And again, I could check that. Here we have 17 minus q equals 6. I'm going to, now this is where I was saying that positive, the opposite of positive is negative. The reason why I said that is because if I have a number by itself, I need to do the inverse of that. And there's no negative sign, so you have to assume that this is a positive number. And when I say assume, it really is a positive number. So if I have 17, how can I get it away? How can I cancel it out? If I have 17 hot Cheetos, if I eat them, so if I'm taking them away, I'm subtracting it. So 17 minus 17 cancels out, leaving me with negative q is equal to, I believe this is, what is it, 16, 6 minus 17, 2 seconds, is negative 11, okay? Now, when I divide, now I can't just leave my answer like that because q is not by itself. I have a negative number here, so the inverse of that is going to be to divide by negative 1 because I essentially have a negative 1 times q, so I divide that and I cancel out, and q equals 11 because a negative divided by a negative is going to be positive. Okay, number 7. Now again, I told you that when you have that division, the only way you want to get rid of it is to multiply it by both sides, where this cancels out, leaving me with 9 minus 31 equals 8. How do I get, so all it's saying is that some number minus 31 is going to give me 8. The inverse of negative or subtracting 31 is adding 31. So I get n equals 39. Number 8, I have 1 plus 2r equals 35. Again, this is a positive number because it's not a negative. It doesn't have a negative sign, so it's a positive one. In order to get rid of one hot Cheeto, you have to subtract it or eat it. Okay, so that cancels out. Then I'm left with 2r equals 34. Now, what this is saying is that I have 2 times some number is going to give me 34. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the opposite of multiplying, divide it by 2, and I get r equals 17. Number 9. Okay, I have 42 plus 5t equals 8t. Now, this one is a little tricky, but what you're going to do is you have 8t on one side. So really what you want to get is the variable to be on one side itself. So right here I have a positive 5t. So I'm going to take it away, because again, imagine 5 hot Cheetos minus to both sides. 5 minus 5 gives me 0, so I'm left with 42 equals 3t. Now I just have 3 times some number is going to give me 42. Divide both sides by 3. 42 divided by 3 is going to give me 14 is equal to t. Okay, and if you're like, still not confident, let me check to see if it's right. This is checking it. Remember, again, you start off with the original. 42 plus 5t equals 8t. We said that for every t that we see, we got 14. So if I plug in 14 for every t, it should give me the answer. So let's try it. 14 equals 8 times 14. So if I do orders of operations, 14 times 5 gives me 70. What's 14 times 8? Gives me 112 plus that 42. So these two should give me 112. So 42 plus 70 is in fact 112. So therefore my answer is right. Number 10. Okay, and all that work was all for funsies, and if you want to make sure that you're going to get that 100%, I always say check your answers, because you just never know, like, hey, it could be something that I messed up on, and then you go back and check your answers. But when you check it, it should always be right if you're doing the orders of operations correctly. Okay, last one. I have 4p minus 3 equals 17. So 4 times some number minus 3 is equal to 17. So again, it's a term by itself. Get everything away from the term and then get that number away from that variable. So the opposite of minus 3 is add 3. So I have 4p is equal to 20. This cancels out. Divide by 4 to both sides. Why? Because it's 4 being multiplied by p and the inverse is to divide. So p is 5. And again, you could check your work if you'd like.